The fact that you worked for years, you were helms of affairs at the Ministry of Agri before you retired as permanent secretary. How can we transform waste now in the agricultural sector? You know, how can we transform it to?
First, let me tell you, in agriculture, there's no waste. There's no waste. If you have any waste, you have lost money. Now, let me start with oil palm. In oil palm, there's no waste in oil palm. Every item in oil palm is money making. Now, I will tell you this for free. First, you take the oil and you say, okay, that's what you want. The kernel is not a waste. The shell is not a waste. The one you call waste is actually food for pigs, and we call it cake. Now, the branches you cut off when you are doing pruning, those branches are part of what gives the soil revitalization. Now, what also happened is that even the effluents that come from that whole process is also a material for what you call biomass, where you can generate power. In some other climate, for instance, I remember that in Indonesia, that is what they use in generating power for their industry. In that industry, the oil palm industry, they use that biomass to generate power. And I also understand recently that Okomu and Presco are working on using that now to also generate power for their own industry. So where's the waste? Now, is it cassava? There's no waste in cassava. Even the peels of cassava, they are simply food for our livestock. You peel the cassava in a local home, you peel cassava and drop in the dustbin. No. Incidentally, that peel becomes a material when properly processed, dried, blended, and kept. It becomes feed for your livestock. Now, what else are you talking about? Is it tomatoes? Just mention them. There's no waste in agriculture. What we are lacking for now is the management process of those items we call waste.
Yes,
in some other clime of the world, there are two bins kept in the compound.
For recycling.
One is for what we call the biodegradable.
Okay.
And then we have what called non-biodegradable. Non-biodegradable are like plastics, metal. They are non-degradables. They can be there for a long time. They are kept in separate container. While you have biodegradable waste from food and all of that are biodegradable. Now, when you have this separated, you can now know, oh, I have this tonnage of this kind of waste. And where do I sell it to? I have this tonnage of this kind of waste. Where do I sell it to? That brings to the issue of when last did we do our, what we call home demography? When last have our states done demography of the houses in Nigeria or in our country? When last have we done that? And then do we know how many homes we have? Do we know how many materials we require? And the second item I want to mention is that if you want to manage waste properly, you must also have what we call the point where you have waste management concept, where the materials, the facilities required to manage your waste are there to transform them. You can make them and say, okay, since I have demography of my state and the houses in the state, I can now say, okay, let me use Benin. I can say, okay, I will zone Benin into four zones or 5 zones. Each of these zones will have machines that process waste. And that particular place become money making for the states. Now, you find out that people will now have a location where they will have opportunity of going to put their waste.
All right. So